Imagine this, it's 3 in the morning, the temperature outside has dropped to minus 40 degrees. The wind changed direction 20 minutes ago, and no one noticed. Smoke that was once escaping cleanly through the cave opening is now flowing inward, silently accumulating. 4 children sleep at the back, breathing slowly. 2 elders struggle for air. The fire is perfect. The embers glow. Everything looks under control. But no one is awake. No one is watching. No one is guarding. In less than 30 minutes, everyone will be dead. Not from the cold, not from a predator, but from carbon monoxide, an invisible killer with no smell, no warning. Sleep grows deeper and never ends. This is not a horror movie. This is basic physics applied to survival during the Ice Age. And if you're here, it's because you want to understand how human systems actually worked when every night could be the last. When cinema sells us the myth of the lone hero surviving by a fire, here we don't romanticize the past, we dissect it. Let's be clear, Night Watch was not a quaint tradition. It wasn't a cultural ritual. It wasn't optional. It was a mandatory survival protocol. Without Night Watch, a group vanished, literally. Within a few generations, their genes disappeared. Why? Because sleep is the most dangerous phase of the human cycle. When you sleep, your prefrontal cortex shuts down. Risk assessment disappears. Reaction time drops to 0. Functionally, you become an unconscious organism surrounded by active threats. During the day, mistakes can be corrected. At night, an uncorrected mistake lasting 10 minutes can kill you while you dream. The night does not forgive unconsciousness. Documentaries show families sleeping peacefully around a fire, selling the illusion of a safe, stable shelter. That image is false. An Ice Age shelter at night was a dynamic threat system, changing hour by hour. Wind is never constant. At 10 p.m., it blows from the north and smoke exits perfectly. At 2 a.m., it shifts east. Smoke enters, sinks, and concentrates. Those sleeping furthest from the fire inhale lethal doses first. How long before carbon monoxide reaches critical levels? 30 minutes, maybe 40 if you're lucky. How long before someone wakes up naturally and notices? Possibly never, because carbon monoxide doesn't wake you up. It puts you deeper to sleep. That's why someone had to stay awake. But smoke wasn't the only danger. Fire itself was a double-edged threat. If it went out, the interior temperature could drop 15 degrees Celsius in under an hour. Children entered hypothermia first, then the elderly. By the time someone woke up shaking hard enough to react, their hands were already too stiff to create friction, strike stone, or hold a torch. At minus 40 degrees, relighting a fire isn't a matter of skill. It's a race against time you don't have. And if the fire grew out of control, a single spark could ignite dry hides and stored material. In minutes, the shelter would be burning. Waking 15 disoriented people and forcing them into lethal cold was nearly impossible. This is where the lone hero myth completely collapses. A human cannot maintain effective vigilance for more than 3 hours under extreme conditions. After that, attention degrades. Micro-sleeps appear. 2, 3, 5-second lapses where consciousness fully shuts off. 5 seconds is enough for a wolf to approach. 5 seconds is enough for an ember to roll. 5 seconds is enough for a child to stand up and walk into the darkness. That's why Night Watch was never about one hero. It was a rotation system. Archaeological evidence from Upper Paleolithic camps shows clear spatial organization. Sleeping areas formed concentric rings around a central fire. The outer ring held young adults, those capable of waking quickly. The middle ring housed families with children. The inner ring, warmest and safest, protected elders, the sick, and infants. Night Watch followed strict shifts, 3 or 4 per night. Each watcher had a defined position, never beside the fire. Heat dulls awareness and destroys night vision. The watchers stayed at the perimeter, where they could feel wind on their skin, hear outside sounds, and read shadows. Their job was not to fight. Their job was to notice. Notice a sound that didn't belong. Notice dogs becoming alert. Notice the fire weakening. Notice a child coughing. Notice a change in airflow and act before it was too late. Predators existed, yes, but they weren't the main killer. Cold, smoke, dehydration, and preventable night accidents killed more humans than large carnivores. A 3-year-old wandering outside at night, 5 minutes to severe hypothermia, 15 to death. An elder silently choking while lying down. 2 exhausted adults fighting half asleep, falling toward the fire. Without someone awake, these were fatal events. And there was another risk. Night watch preserved internal order. When everyone sleeps, rules dissolve. Theft, violence, abandonment. Without oversight, the group fractures. Vigilance protected not only against external threats, but internal collapse. Someone was always watching. The night was never lawless. Human cooperation didn't emerge from kindness. It emerged from physics. Humans must sleep. Sleep makes you defenseless. The only solution was exchange. I watch while you sleep. You watch while I sleep. Not philosophy. Survival mathematics. And here's the brutal truth. Anyone who refused their watch was expelled, not as moral punishment, but as operational risk removal. A member who didn't guard endangered everyone. Groups trained these protocols, practiced transitions, defined roles. Who woke whom? Who moved the children? Who managed the fire? Because when the real threat arrived, there was no time to think, only to execute. Groups without systems disappeared. Groups with discipline survived. And that's why you're here today. Because the night did not forgive solitude. It only spared those who learned to take turns. And now that you understand why someone always had to stay awake, there's a harder question. How did they keep fire alive when everything was wet, frozen, and trembling hands meant death before dawn? That story is even more brutal.